Bob Denver broke his silence before his death in 2005, and what he revealed will destroy everything you thought you knew about Gilligan Island. For 3 seasons, Gilligan became one of television's most beloved characters. But behind the slapstick comedy, there were brutal fights and shocking betrayals and secrets that CBS buried for decades. Bob spoke openly in his final years, and what he admitted is devastating. The real reason the show was cancelled after only 3 seasons. How the network refused to let the castaways get rescued because of greed, the co-star he could not stand to be around. Why he called playing Gilligan the worst decision of his career, and the dark truth about what that role did to his life for 40 years. This is not another fun trip back to the island. These are confessions from Bob Denver himself exposing what it really costs to wear that red shirt and white sailor hat. If you think Gilligan Island was innocent fun, you are about to discover the disturbing truth that Bob took to his grave. Let us dive into what he finally admitted when he had nothing left to hide. Before we dive into video, please subscribe to our channel. Bob Denver never wanted to play Gilligan. In 1964, he was already a successful television actor thanks to his role as Maynard G. Krebs on The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. Bob had played the beatnik sidekick for 4 seasons, and he was tired of playing goofy characters. He wanted to do serious dramatic work. Bob had studied acting, and he believed he had range beyond comedy. When his agent told him about a new sitcom called Gilligan's Island, Bob said no immediately. He read the premise and thought it was the stupidest thing he had ever heard. 7 people stranded on a deserted island who can never get rescued. Bob said it made no sense. Why would audiences want to watch people fail to escape week after week? But Bob's agent pressured him. The money was good and the creator Sherwood Schwartz had a solid track record. Bob reluctantly agreed to meet with Sherwood, but he had already decided he would turn down any offer. What happened in that meeting changed Bob's life forever, but not in the way anyone expected. Sherwood Schwartz told Bob that Gilligan was not just a comedy character. He was an everyman who represented the audience. Gilligan's mistakes and failures were relatable, because everyone feels incompetent sometimes. Sherwood said the show was really about how people from different backgrounds could form a community despite their differences. Bob was intrigued by that deeper meaning. He thought maybe the show could be more than just slapstick. Sherwood also offered Bob top billing and a percentage of the merchandising. Bob said yes, but he admitted years later that he regretted that decision almost immediately. The first season of Gilligan's Island was chaos. The show filmed on location in Hawaii and later on studio sets in Los Angeles. The conditions were brutal. Bob spent hours in the hot sun doing physical comedy that left him exhausted and bruised. Bob said he felt like a human punching bag. Every episode required him to fall down or get hit or crash into something. Bob did most of his own stunts, and his body paid the price. What fans never figured out is that Bob Denver hated playing Gilligan from the very beginning. The character was an idiot who ruined every rescue attempt. Gilligan had no depth and no growth. He made the same mistakes over and over for 3 years. Bob said playing that character made him feel stupid. He was a trained actor, and he was being asked to act like a clown. Bob revealed that he begged Sherwood Schwartz to give Gilligan more intelligence and complexity. Bob wanted episodes where Gilligan succeeded or learned from his mistakes, but Sherwood refused. He said the show's formula worked because audiences knew Gilligan would screw up. If Gilligan changed, the whole premise would collapse. Bob felt trapped playing a character who could never evolve. The relationship between Bob Denver and Alan Hale Jr., who played the skipper, was one of the most complicated in television history. On screen, Gilligan and the skipper were best friends. The skipper would get frustrated with Gilligan, but he always forgave him. Off-screen, Bob and Alan had a much different dynamic. Bob revealed in his final interviews that Alan was a heavy drinker who had serious anger issues. Alan would show up to set hungover and irritable. If a scene did not go well, Alan would explode and blame everyone around him. Bob said Alan had a particular hatred for the physical comedy scenes. The show required Alan to constantly hit Bob on the head with his hat or grab him by the shirt. Alan thought that kind of slapstick was beneath him. He was a serious actor who had appeared in films with major stars. Playing a buffoonish sea captain who hit his first mate made Alan feel humiliated. Bob revealed there was one incident during season 2 that nearly destroyed their working relationship. They were filming a scene where the skipper was supposed to chase Gilligan around the lagoon. Alan was hungover and in a foul mood. Bob accidentally stepped on Alan's foot during a take, and Alan lost his temper. He grabbed Bob and shoved him hard. Bob fell backward into the water. Everyone thought it was part of the scene, but Bob knew it was real anger. When Bob came up from the water, he confronted Alan. Bob told him he was a drunk and a bully. Alan responded by threatening to quit the show. The producers had to intervene and separate them. From that point on, Bob and Alan maintained a professional relationship, but there was no real friendship. They would film their scenes and then avoid each other. Bob said some of their best comedic moments came during periods when they genuinely could not stand each other. The tension was real, and it made the skipper's frustration with Gilligan more believable. One of the most shocking secrets Bob Denver revealed involves the female cast members and the way they were treated on set. Dawn Wells, who played Mary Ann, and Tina Louise, who played Ginger, were objectified constantly. Bob said the producers and network executives saw them as eye candy, not as real actresses. The wardrobe department was instructed to make their costumes as revealing as possible. Mary Ann's shorts kept getting shorter, and Ginger's dresses kept getting tighter. Bob said both women complained about it, but they were ignored. The network told them that appeal was part of their job. Bob revealed that he tried to defend Dawn and Tina, but it made no difference. The men running the show had all the power, and the women had none. Bob said, watching that happen made him ashamed to be part of the production. Bob also revealed the truth about the feud between Dawn Wells and Tina Louise. Fans knew there was tension, but nobody understood how deep it really went. Tina hated being on Gilligan's Island from day one. She was a serious actress who had appeared on Broadway and in films. Tina thought the show was beneath her, and she resented being reduced to a sex symbol. Dawn, on the other hand, embraced the show and loved playing Mary Ann. Dawn was grateful for the opportunity, and she appreciated the fans. Tina saw Dawn's positivity as naive and annoying. Dawn saw Tina's bitterness as ungrateful and pretentious. The two women barely spoke unless the script required it. Bob said he tried to play peacemaker, but both women were stubborn. The tension got so bad that the writers stopped putting Mary Ann and Ginger in scenes together unless absolutely necessary. Bob Denver also revealed the devastating truth about why Gilligan's Island was cancelled after only 3 seasons. Fans always assumed the ratings had dropped, but Bob said that was not true. The show was still pulling solid numbers. The real reason was money and network politics. CBS decided they wanted to appeal to younger, more urban audiences. They wanted shows that felt modern and relevant. Gilligan's Island felt old-fashioned and silly. The network wanted to replace it with edgier comedies. Bob said Sherwood Schwartz fought to save the show. He pitched new ideas and promised to update the format. CBS refused to listen. They cancelled Gilligan's Island without even giving the cast a chance to film a proper finale. Bob said he found out the show was cancelled by reading about it in the newspaper. After 3 years of hard work, CBS could not even give them the courtesy of a phone call. What made the cancellation even more painful was that CBS refused to let the castaways get rescued. Bob revealed that Sherwood Schwartz wanted to film a final episode where the castaways finally made it home. Sherwood thought the audience deserved closure, but CBS said no. The network owned the show, and they wanted to keep it open-ended so they could bring it back if they changed their minds. Bob said that decision was cruel. Millions of fans had invested 3 years watching these characters try to escape, and they never got to see them succeed. Bob admitted he resented CBS for that. The network had used them for profit and then discarded them without any resolution. The physical toll of playing Gilligan also haunted Bob for the rest of his life. Bob spent 3 years falling down and getting hit and doing pratfalls. He developed chronic back pain that never went away. Bob said there were days when he could barely walk because his back hurt so badly. He had to take painkillers just to get through normal activities. Bob also injured his knee during season 3, and it never healed properly. Bob said the show destroyed his body and nobody cared. The producers just wanted him to keep performing no matter how much pain he was in. Bob revealed that the network had insurance on the cast, but they fought paying any claims. When Bob tried to get compensation for his injuries, CBS lawyers told him he had assumed the risk by doing his own stunts. One of the most painful revelations Bob made was about his family and how Gilligan's Island destroyed his personal relationships. Bob was married 4 times, and every marriage failed partly because of the show. Bob said his first wife hated that he was playing another goofy character after Maynard. She thought Bob was wasting his talent and becoming a joke. The constant criticism wore Bob down, and they divorced during the show's run. Bob's second marriage failed because he was typecast and could not find work after the show ended. Bob said he was depressed and broke, and his wife could not handle the financial stress. Bob admitted he was not easy to live with during that period. He was angry about what the show had done to his career, and he took that anger out on everyone around him. Bob also revealed the financial reality of Gilligan's Island and how he was exploited. Bob was promised a percentage of merchandising, but he said CBS found ways to avoid paying him what he was owed. The network licensed Gilligan's Island products to dozens of companies. There were toys and lunchboxes and board games. Bob said he received pennies on the dollar. When he complained, CBS lawyers showed him the fine print in his contract. The merchandising percentage only applied to certain categories and most products did not qualify. Bob said he felt cheated. His image was being used to sell millions of dollars worth of products, and he received almost nothing. The syndication of Gilligan's Island made it even worse. The show became enormously popular in reruns. It aired constantly throughout the 1970s and 80s. Bob said CBS made hundreds of millions of dollars from syndication, but the cast received no residuals. The contracts they had signed in 1964 did not include residual payments. Bob and the other cast members tried to renegotiate, but CBS refused. The network said a deal was a deal. Bob revealed that he struggled financially for decades while CBS got rich off his work. He had to take any job he could get just to pay bills. Bob appeared at car dealerships and county fairs dressed as Gilligan because he needed the money. Bob said those appearances were humiliating, but he had no choice. Bob Denver also revealed how playing Gilligan destroyed his ability to do other work. Bob was typecast so severely that nobody would hire him for anything else. Bob auditioned for dramatic roles and was rejected immediately. Directors told him audiences would only see Gilligan. Bob tried to do theatre and the reviews were brutal. Critics said he was miscast and should stick to television comedy. Bob said he felt like his entire identity had been erased. He was no longer Bob Denver the actor. He was Gilligan and nothing else. Bob revealed that he fell into a deep depression in the 1970s. He started drinking heavily to cope with the failure and the typecasting. Bob said there were times when he did not want to live anymore. The character that made him famous had destroyed everything he cared about. The reunion movies in the 1970s and 80s gave Bob temporary financial relief, but they also reinforced the typecasting. Bob appeared in 3 made-for-television Gilligan's Island reunion movies. Bob said he did them purely for money. He hated returning to the character, but he needed the paycheck. The movies were poorly written and cheaply made. Bob said they felt like desperate cash grabs. But audiences loved seeing the castaways again and the movies got solid ratings. Bob revealed that even during those reunions, the cast tensions remained. Tina Louise refused to participate in the first reunion movie. She wanted nothing to do with Gilligan's Island. The producers had to write around her absence. Bob said Tina was the smart one. She walked away and refused to let the show define her. Bob wished he had done the same. One of the most disturbing things Bob revealed was how Gilligan's Island damaged his relationship with his own children. Bob had 4 children from different marriages, and he admitted he was not a good father to any of them. Bob said he was so consumed with resentment about his career that he had no emotional energy left for his kids. His children grew up watching other kids make fun of their dad for playing an idiot on television. Bob said his kids were embarrassed by him and he did not blame them. Bob revealed that one of his sons told him he wished Bob had done something respectable with his life. That comment broke Bob's heart, but he knew it was true. Bob had sacrificed his artistic integrity for a paycheck, and his family paid the price. Bob Denver also revealed the truth about Sherwood Schwartz and how their relationship deteriorated over the years. At first, Bob trusted Sherwood and believed in his vision for the show, but Bob said Sherwood cared more about the concept than the people. Sherwood was obsessed with proving that Gilligan's Island was meaningful social commentary. He would give interviews claiming the show was about class differences and human nature. Bob thought that was pretentious nonsense. The show was slapstick comedy and nothing more. Bob said Sherwood's need to intellectualize Gilligan's Island made him delusional. Bob revealed that he and Sherwood had a major falling out in the 1990s. Bob gave an interview where he said the show had ruined his career. Sherwood was furious. He called Bob ungrateful and accused him of rewriting history. Bob said the relationship never recovered. When Sherwood died in 2011, Bob had mixed feelings. He appreciated what Sherwood had given him, but he also resented what the show had cost him. In his final years before his death from cancer in 2005, Bob Denver tried to make peace with his complicated legacy. Bob acknowledged that Gilligan's Island brought joy to millions of people and remained beloved decades after it aired. Bob understood that for many viewers the show represented innocent escapist fun, but Bob also wanted people to know the cost of creating that entertainment. He had sacrificed his career and his health and his family to play a character he never respected. Bob said his biggest regret was not being stronger. He should have walked away after the first season. He should have demanded better material. He should have valued himself more than he valued success. What Bob wanted people to understand is that Gilligan was not lovable. The character was an incompetent man-child who ruined everything. Bob said playing that character for 3 years made him feel worthless. People would come up to him on the street and call him Gilligan. They expected him to be clumsy and stupid. Bob said it was dehumanizing. He was a real person with feelings and intelligence, but nobody saw that. They only saw the red shirt and the white hat. Bob revealed that he threw away all his Gilligan costumes years ago. He could not stand looking at them. They represented everything he had lost. Bob Denver died at age 70, having never escaped the shadow of Gilligan's Island. His obituaries all led with Gilligan. His family received condolence letters addressed to the little buddy. Bob had spent 40 years trying to be seen as something more than a sitcom character, and he failed. What fans never figured out is that Bob Denver was destroyed by the role that made him famous. Behind the physical comedy and the catchphrases was a man who felt trapped and diminished by his own success. That is the real story of Gilligan's Island. It created a beloved character, but it destroyed the actor who played him. Bob Denver gave 3 years to that show and spent the rest of his life paying the price. That is what Bob Denver finally revealed about Gilligan's Island, the hidden cost of being television's most famous castaway, and the truth that nobody wanted to hear.